What is up, people of YouTube? I'm your host Vernon. This is Tool Springs at Floyd Lamb Park. Let's fish that. Alright, ladies and gents, at the start of this year, I thought to myself, we've now been doing this for 3 years, so I want to try and focus on specific catches rather than just catching whatever out there. But it is already late into March, and I've only managed to catch 17 fish this year so far. So if we compare this back to 2020, by the same time, I almost had something like 100 fish by now. So it is really a humbling experience not catching that many fish. And I do think I need to change the way I approach finding some fish out there. Now, for that reason, the wife and I, we made our way out back to Floyd Lamb Park, and this is a particular good time to try and find some fish, but it can be very complicated. You'll notice that some of the trees already have some blossoms, some are starting to get some new leaves, and that officially kind of means we're at the start of spring. Now that can be a difficult time to fish, especially with the temperatures fluctuating quite a lot. One day you might be able to catch some bass, suddenly the temperatures change and you no longer get them, they stop feeding, or it's warm enough for some catfish to come up, or the carp start with their spawn. So multiple fish are willing to bite this time of year. You just need to constantly keep changing and trying to see which fish want to bite at that exact moment. So that's going to be our plan for today, trying for everything and seeing what we can get. So let's get to it. Alright, so being 2 licensed anglers here in the state of Nevada, that means we are allowed 2 rods each. We're going to be using 1 rod out there with some baits, that is the carp setup, using a normal little method feeder with some corn, hoping to get some carp if they are willing to be feeding at the moment. On the second rod we got out here, we have some night crawlers on that, casting it out as deep as we can, hoping to see if we can get some catfish, or if they are starting to move up some bluegill or anything like that. Now all of this, of course, is very dependent on the temperatures of the water. We're at that moment where some days it's warm enough for the fish to move up, some days it's too cold and they move back in. So this is still a time of year where you can still catch some trout. But having a look at the social media pages over the last week, some days people are catching bass, other days they are catching some carp, some are still catching catfish. So it all depends on the specific day that you are fishing. Today we are having some warmer weather. I don't know if any of the trout will be willing to feed, but we'll try with some lures and maybe some baits to see for some trout. But the idea is going to be spending quite a lot of time out here, different baits, different lures, to see what fish we can get, what fish are willing to be feeding at the moment. Alright, now for my second rod, I'm going to start off with a little Ned rig, something that I'm going to throw out there, move quite slowly. The reason why I'm doing that is I've been seeing quite a lot of pictures online of people catching bass right now. That is a bit weird for me because the waters are actually still pretty cold. But this time of year, anything like a degree in the water temperatures can make all the difference. So if people are busy catching bass, then it's a good time to get out here and see whether I can get any. Now, of course, I'm not seeing any bass up shallow, so I'm thinking they're sitting off just a bit deeper. So I'm going to be doing a little Ned rig in a slow presentation, more of a winter tactic, to see in the colder water if maybe they'll be willing to go for the little Ned rig. Of course, walking around, talking to all the people around the lake, bit concerning. Lots of people saying they're not catching fish at the moment. But that's the thing about fishing, you're never guaranteed to catch anything. All you can do is try. Alright, so even though we are busy soaking some baits at Tool Springs, at the main big pond that they stock with all sorts of fish, I'm also trying out the different ponds. A lot of times these smaller ponds tend to be a lot warmer than the bigger ones, meaning that maybe some of the bass may already be looking for a place to spawn. Some pre-spawn fish maybe want to start feeding. So I'm going to move to all the ponds and focus on looking for fish, any action of fish, whether it be bass up shallow or maybe some carp swimming around or bluegill, anything like that. You need to be vigilant, looking for any signs of fish so you know what fish you can target at the moment. Of course, I'm also looking for some structure or some wood, trees, trying to find any places that the fish would be willing to hide at the moment. Water temperatures are still a bit low, so I'm using slower tactics, not moving it around that erratically, just slowly moving it on the bottom. Alright guys, quickly want to explain. I wasn't talking because there was a bass right up next to the bank here. That was the only bass that I saw up close thus far. And I've been to all three of the other ponds, thinking that the lower ponds might actually be warmer. But I did not see any other bass than that one big one. So I'm thinking another week or two before the bass maybe will start moving upwards. So for the moment, I'm going to put away the bass stuff, not going to focus on that. We have also not been getting any hits on the little night crawlers out there, and no catfish wanting to go for our night crawlers. So we're going to swap over to some power baits. Yes, it's been almost a month since the last time they stocked trout, but there might be one or two trout still around. So we're going to try some power baits, try for everything, see whether we can get anything. Alright guys, bit of a situation here. That cormorant splashing out there, he just swallowed a fish, and believe it or not, that fish is on my line. So we're quickly going to have to bring in that cormorant to see whether we can safely get the hook out. Again, when handling these birds, it's better to be safe. We're going to have to cover him up, try and mitigate some of the stress he's going to be feeling at the moment. Right, so we got him covered up. Quickly going to get some pliers, see if we can get our hooks out. Alright, so we got the hook out. I think we're not going to try and look at this little bird, we're just going to let him go. So whenever you're ready, you can release him. He's flying away nicely. The hook was stuck in his throat. We did get it out, but luckily he did get a fish as well.
The fish that would have broken the dry spell.
So even though we didn't catch that fish, that bird did get the fish, and we caught the bird.
Ridiculous.
Alright guys, so got my corn setup that I want to throw out there again. I just quickly want to explain what happened. We could see little trout on the hook, on the line. We could see we're getting a hit, and once I started reeling in, suddenly we got a massive hit from that cormorant, and as he came up we could actually see him swallow the little trout. Luckily we could get that hook out, so that does mean there's still some trout in the area, so more hope for the little power baits then. But hopefully if we get another trout, that the cormorants won't try and steal that one. Alright, ladies and gents, turns out if you want to catch a cormorant, all you need to do is lifeline some trout out there. Now, I know some people would be angry and say I shouldn't have released that little bird, but that bird is still part of nature, and I love that bird as much as I do the fish. That is why it's important to me that we safely release birds if we do catch them. And speaking of other people, I want to thank all of the people out there today that actually came to talk with me. Between talking to other fishermen and some viewers, I think I spent as much time talking to people as I did fishing out there. And it is always fun to talk to other people, share some fishing stories, or maybe even learning some things from people. For instance, I keep saying Tool Springs. I'm actually wrong in the pronunciation of it. It is Tule Springs. It's small little things like this that I won't know unless you guys help me out with that. So I want to give a big shout out and thank you to everyone that's always talking to me. Now, as far as the fishing's gone out there today, it's been rather slow. We tried for carp, we tried catfish, we tried bass, we even tried for some trout. No luck out there, and that is how it is this time of year. Some days you'll catch quite a lot of fish, other days small changes, small differences, and you get no fish. It's then very easy for us anglers to say, but I didn't catch anything. I'm not going to go fishing until we know the fish are biting. But be very careful of this mindset. Like I said, things change very quickly, within a couple of days, maybe even. And if you miss your opportunities, you need to remember that the fish are coming up shallow for spawning, and a lot of the fish during their spawn season, they won't be biting. The point is, I don't want you guys to miss out on pre-spawn and spawning fish. Alright guys, but I think that's going to bring an end to this video. I want to thank you guys for watching and following us out here. Feel free to ask any questions down below in the comments. Give me a little thumbs up. If you have not yet subscribed to the channel, consider doing so. Hit the big red subscribe button. Join my community. And as usual guys, we'll see you next time.